Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. Wow, what a start. Bingo for opponent and a shocker of a rack for me with no vowels at all. So, couldn't be much worse. What to do? Well, despite appearances, this is too good a rack to change. I can play Fecht for 20 with an OK rack leave. Well, I think I can do slightly better than that, so that's 20. What about Fricked? 28, much better. And really nice rack. I have Jalebis, and Order T takes an S, so that plays in row I. I have a slight doubt about it. It's possible it doesn't take an S, but I'll certainly be trying it given we are playing Void Challenge. But quite a turnaround in the rack, even if there isn't a bingo here. It's a pretty good rack, and if I can play the J off, then anything that's left is going to be bingo-y. I'm not seeing a bingo other than Jalebis. Let me consider the available floaters. A, U, what about T? I've got the ubble and ibble ending. Doesn't look helpful. How about the H? No, not for a bingo. I have bargee through that. The F doesn't go well with the J. And the E doesn't make a bingo. There's only the one spot for Jalebis on the board as it stands. Fricked does take an S. So, supposing my bingo isn't good or is blocked, I have Juba and Beiju, but, well, not very much to choose between those, through the U of Audity. What else is available? The J is a priority tile to play. It's the only significantly non-bingo-y tile on the rack. But I'm anxious not to wreck too much of the rest of the rack, so a play of 3 tiles, J, B and vowel, seems optimal, and that's achieved with the bingos mentioned in, the plays mentioned in row C. Now, opponent taking a while with his play, does now play, doesn't block Jalebis, does block the previous spot, but creates a new one, and quite a nice one. 93 points, fantastic. I was slightly hesitant about that. There is a similar word which doesn't take an S. So I take the lead, but my rack has gone from one extreme to the other. I opened with 7 consonants, and I now have 5 vowels. Through an L, I would have ovolo, but no L's available. What else can I do? J takes an O. I wonder if this is one of these occasions when I'm overly anxious to burn the V, and perhaps I should be concentrating more on the vowels. Well, having said that, the V is a scoring tile. I don't have anything in column 8. I think Louvre is good, but I don't think that takes a D, and I'm not going to check it. I don't like abusing the Void Challenge rule because it takes the edge off your judgment when you're playing penalty challenge games, which is the norm for face-to-face. So what can I do about J taking an O or an A? And if opponent plays in that spot, there's likely to be ladder opportunities. Well, not terribly much. I've got oo. I've got do. I have oh dear. Well, none of those are particularly looking good. What am I missing? From an R, I would have rodeo with OA rather than just OD. I'm really struggling with V words from this rack. I have dove, but that leaves 3 vowels, and I'm sure I can do better than that. Okay, so we do have a ladder. Lad takes an E. I'm just revisiting column 8, but not seeing anything great. I don't have anything to go in front of lad. A and O go after it. But I have no JA plays, so this is not looking a good spot. Let me look elsewhere. So what about this? Do for 23. It's not a terrible rack leave, but it's not far off. I am going with this. Okay, well, the rack is now balanced, which is good. Duplicate N, slightly problematic. And I would like to get rid of the V. I don't have to get rid of the H, but I note that I have Haven and Hoven on my rack. Do either of those play? Still nothing to go in front of lad. That's B, C, G. IO takes an N. I have Novena on my rack. And I have nothing which goes after JA, so Royale not looking particularly great for me. Quite a tricky rack to deal with. I haven't seen anything which stands out. I do have Hove in row D, but that keeps duplicate N. So I would like to find something better. Wow, 46 points for opponent. I now trail, although in reality we're neck and neck. Hoven nearly fits, apart from OV, but that's a pretty big caveat. So, what to do? I am drawn to this Z. It's an obvious scoring spot. I do have NOH, which isn't hugely dangerous. Scores 30 points, and this rack leave, not bad. It's one of the better ones for a V. And this isn't particularly dangerous. Not many bingers begin with N, and not many tiles go after H. And an opponent can not place a high-scoring tile in row H particularly easily. I am going with this. Not great. I draw 3 vowels, and I'm back to a 5-vowel rack. I have Nevi in column 1, should opponent not play there. I have double A in row H. I'm looking in row L to see if I have a play which gets the V doubled and ends I or A, and I'm not seeing one. I do have Nevi, which gets the N doubled, keeping double A. Now AVA is good. That would sort out all the problems with the rack, apart from its vowel heaviness. I'm not seeing anywhere great for AVA. Do has blocked plays down from the L. Quite a tight game, just 20 points between us. Still both blanks to come. 36, that's not terrible. Locks takes an F, but that's not going to be used. So, do I play in row L? If I do, it gifts opponent a triple word square bottom left. On the other hand, it turns over a lot of tiles. Not bad, with 2 blanks to come and half the bag gone. I could play Nevi through this A, but that would leave 3 vowels. Now, is there anywhere for avian? The real danger of this play is that opponent with 2 blanks out there just bangs down a bingo and I don't have a bingo. And that is a real danger. So that doesn't feel like the sort of move which a good player would make. What about AVA here? 14 points. Not terrible. A bingo in column 14 would open column 15. Well, I'm just worried about this vowel preponderance. I'd really like to do something about that. Gosh, this is tricky. 15 minutes on my clock. What am I missing? The floaters in order T are all vowels, so pretty useless with this rack, and the H and T in frict are not providing access to the right sort of premium square. I don't have anything on to Zol. So what about Nevi here? I'm only retaining 2 vowels, which is a lot better than 3. Duplicate A, a lot nicer than duplicate I, O, or U. I'm not gifting terribly much for my opponent. A row M bingo is face value, and the N covers the double letter square. I'm going with this. Well, not great. I do have Buggy and Baggy, both of which play in row I, and also row M, so I can immediately sort this rack out. And I will be playing off 5 tiles, which is good. I've still got my eye on these blanks. If I get one of the blanks, I'm fairly hopeful that there's enough space on this board to get a bingo down before the end of the game. Well, opponent scoring consistently well, and his play suggests he may be short on vowels, and suggests he did not have a bingo. So, where to play Buggy? I'm minded to play it here. It's slightly fewer points, but the Y in column 15 is going to be useful for opponent even if he doesn't have a bingo. I am going with this. Buggy or Baggy? Well, 2 U's still to come. I'm going with Buggy. Great, I draw the blank. I've still got 5 vowels, so I have anemia. Does that play? Yes, it does. Row N, anemia and YA. Fantastic. Not sure it plays anywhere else. And it doesn't quite play in row L, despite boa and iron, because there are only 6 squares. Anemia, pretty volatile play. Opens up 2 triple word squares and a triple lane. But there are quite a few non-bingo-y tiles out there. Wow! Opponent bingos, but he does provide a spot for anemia. And I have an interesting choice here. I trail by 90. I can play anemia, making Yom, Mai, and EA, or I can play anemias for a lower score. But the S is more useful for opponent than row O. And opponent did not use the blank. Interesting. Let me check the remaining vowels. 13 out of 33, slightly vowel dry. So that's anemia for 79. Just checking I haven't got a massive overlap further over. And I don't. let me just put this back. I have 13 minutes. Do I have a triple triple through the S? So the blank would be a consonant. So this rack plus an S. Not seen anything so far. So A kinesia, I would need 2 I's. Very tricky to spot the 5 vowel 8s. That's anemias, and it does not have an anagram. How about this? Nope, not seeing a bingo there. No, I'm not seeing one. I'm going back to my first choice of anemia for 79. Well, I miss the blank. I draw QV, which is awful, but I have QU, which is good. And I also have the S for souk. But the remaining tiles suddenly looking pretty bingo-y given some of the junk I picked up. In particular Q and V. And look at this, I trail, so I'm not in good shape. I'm really dependent on opponent not being able to bingo, and there are so many bingo lanes on this board, I'm not going to be able to block them, and I'm going to struggle to turn this rack around and make it a bingo-y rack. However, we shall see. I have vacuum through the U, keeping the Q. That would be a pretty foolish play, I think. This Q is available, but what can I do here with it? Not much really, just qua, which is hopeless, keeping 5 consonants, or 4 consonants and a U. What about QUA? Well, that's the best I can do, row B, QUA. Q and U have positive, great, not a bingo. Q and U have positive synergy, so maybe I should concentrate on getting rid of V and M. As it happens, the best spot for that looks like it's them. But this is interesting because this kills bingo lanes and suddenly the board is looking less bingo-y. Now, although I trail, I don't need a bingo to catch opponents. And I can probably score well with the Q. I've got qua and AY for a 30-point play. Maybe I should do that straight away. Well, maybe I should play vacuum with this blank still to come. 17 points. I'll be in reasonable shape if I draw the U or the blank. How useful is the I? Well, I have cheese onto the S. So although this looks really dumb, blocking a U and playing a U, I think this move has a lot of merit. I'm taking out bingo lane, so opponent may be forced to bingo in column 14, which would give me access to column 15. I am going with this. Interesting. I do draw I's and an S, and I have an N, so I have chin in column 14 and cheese in column 12. So I think retaining the Q has played off to some extent. I'm still fearful that I'm about to be on the receiving end of a bingo, but it's being forced into column 14, I think. I'm quite glad I've taken out rows B and C. Just wondering about the placement of vacuum. I could, of course, have played it 1 square further on. Now, where are the Q spots? I've identified a couple. Are there others? Well, not sure there are, but the two I've spotted, I think, are unlikely both to be blocked. Ah, well, what about chins and fricts? Interesting. 41 points, and the S I don't think is particularly useful on this board. That is tempting. I trail by 25, so I do need to keep piling on the points and hope I get a little bit lucky with what opponent can do. No A's left for opponent. No ING lanes, apart from row B, and that's unlikely to be used. Wow. Opponent does bingo, 65 points. 4 tiles in the bag. I can't get the Q doubled in row H. So, what to do? Interesting. So I do have chins for 40 points, but I think that's a losing play. It empties the bag. There are no bingo lanes. And I'll trail by 40 after the play. But I'm thinking maybe this game is lost anyway. Not sure. What about playing cheese here and hoping that I have a column 15 bingo or a row B bingo? The trouble with this is it's only 22 points, so opponent may outrun a bingo, but I think this is a better play than chins. An alternative would be cheese, but I think the two bingo lanes are row B, column 15, column 13, so as many as possible of those I can leave alone, the better. Cheese does obstruct column 13 a little bit. But look at this, 2 E's to come. If I draw one of them, I've got quite a strong set. I think that the vulnerability in this situation is that there are probably very few bingos through the A, and opponent is likely to block columns 13 and 15. But cheese stops opponent playing across from this double letter square, which is quite useful. He could easily put his K there, K-O-R-E, for example, for a 30 or 40 point play. I am going with this. Well, I do draw an E. I have ironers. Does that play? Now, one thing I perhaps should have noticed is that cheese blocks column 12 for a fricts bingo. I don't have one. Or have I just blocked rosiners? I may have done. However, I had to play my Q somewhere. And I can't see anywhere else that I could have just jettisoned Q and I. Anyway, back to this rack. Ironers doesn't play in columns 13 or 15. It doesn't have an anagram. What about the A? This rack plus an A. No, not seeing a play. And I've also blocked the T as a floater for column 15. Well, I simply couldn't see alternative spots for the Q. I think it was inevitable that bingo lanes were blocked. 2 tiles left. I'm expecting opponent to empty the bag. What would a bingo through this A look like? Well, what goes in front of M? E and O. Gosh, well, that's pretty hopeless. So my attention, I think, is turning to minimizing the losing spread. Yeah, opponent empties the bag. So I can play noirs. Maybe Norrie's better. I don't think Norrie's is good. So noirs for 27. 360. Yeah, this game is definitely lost, and I am going to go out with ER. So Unrisen was my undoing, but not an awful lot I could do about that. Opponent certainly was favourite as we moved towards the end game. So opponent will not be going out. Where can I play ER for the biggest score? I have Rev for 7. Her and for 11. Not seeing anything to top that. Yeah, nice play by opponent. And the final score, 381 for me, 460 for my opponent, a winning margin of 79 points, so well done to my opponent. Let's see what I missed. Wow, great game by opponent. Really solid play. Now, this was my opponent to start, and he had a fantastic rack and a good spot of oddity. I played Fricked for 28. That looks fine. Wow! Missed bingo. Reloader. Opponent plays red. And now I have Jalebis at J6. Also playable elsewhere. No bingo here, but it looks close to one. Opponent plays lad. And this was a rack I struggled with, and I think you can see in a capsule why that is. No standout scores, and all the rack leaves are shocking, especially triple O. So I played Do for 23, and I think that's the best in terms of what's on offer here. Nice spot by opponent, Zowie for 46. Hovea, L1. Well, retaining duplicate N. Not great. I play No for 30, keeping Vane. And Vane certainly 2 points better than double N. Double N's pretty grim, probably worth about -7 or 8. And Vane, probably fairly neutral. Maybe 0, maybe fractionally positive. But certainly more than 2 points better than double N. Opponent's rack plays locks. And now I only trail by 10 points. And this was a tricky rack, and again you can see why just by scanning down the leave columns. Usually when comparing score and rack leave, the move you go for leaves a half-decent rack leave. Well, all of these rack leaves I would put in the category of bad. So inevitably when you make a play, you don't feel that you found the best one, even when on occasion you do. So I play Nevi for 21, and that looks fine. Opponent plays Wrapped, and well, I had Baggy and Buggy and really reached for those moves fairly quickly. But Gas Bag, H12, interesting because of Doob. I think that score maybe makes it worth doing. I don't think AA or AU are 8 points better than YU. So AA probably worth about -5. AU maybe worth -7 or 8. UY, well, I think probably -7 or 8 as well. So I think these rack leaves may be fairly similar, in which case Gas Bag is a much better play. Great rack for opponent and a good spot of Omertas. And now I went with Anemia, and the only alternative bingo was the one I considered in column 15, pluralizing that. And I still like my play. Wow! Missed bingo for opponent, B8. And Tiki, beginning with the A of oddity. That would have been amazing. Very difficult one to spot. And this was a strange rack because I think in the end I went with vacuum. I only trailed by 42 points. And look at this, 46 points. That looks painful. But where is it? I-14. Ah, Squama, AY and ME. That would have been the play. S doesn't take that many tiles after it, but look at this. That would have put me into the lead and turned over 5 tiles and got rid of the Q, so certainly a better play than vacuum. And I'm pretty sure opponent would have had a bingo through the A and the U, even had I played Squama. But in any event, I didn't, and he does bingo. And now I'm in grim shape, only 4 tiles left. I've got the Q and I trail by 90. And I played cheese for 22 in order to leave some in the bag. And the chance of a bingo. Opponent plays F. And no bingo here. And Norris was good, and I play Noirs. Opponent plays Pluk. And I go out with her, but I could have got 3 more points. L12 with Renai. Always slightly difficult to spot extensions rather than parallel plays. So, what a game. Absolutely flying start for opponent. I just about managed to hang on to his coattails, then got it into a tricky situation towards the end of the game with the Q on my rack. I played vacuum, and I think Squama would have been a much better play, but opponent had the blank and would probably have won anyway. Anyway, many congratulations to my opponent for a great victory and a great battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game, and I will see you next time.